Alrighty, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hajim Zero here, back with another quick movie review. It feels like a minute since I've done one of these. Um, Pretty much a month, I would say. Well, actually sitting here and recording it. Oh, excuse me. This movie is one of my favorites. Because of of course, the horror and ironically the religious tone and the guy, one of the actors who, in my opinion, should do more leading role kind of movies. And in my opinion, really should have played Constantine because how serious he was in this film. But this movie is Legion. I can't remember the director's name, but he came from a background in, I think, effects, and it was something else. And I want to say this was his first directorial debut. You forgive me because I don't know his name, but of the actors I do, it stars Paul Bettany, Charles Dutton, Tyrese Gibson, Lucas Black. I can't remember the guy that played Gabriel, but he's a known actor too. There he is on the screen right now, and Dennis Quaid, of course. Um, this movie is pretty much about this whole apocalypse. That's, well, not really apocalypse, but an extermination that happens with this woman. Apparently, the story is, I don't know if you heard it, but when God got mad at man, he sent the great flood, and even that comes from the movie. And then the second extermination is with all the angels, the dogs from heaven, doing his work. And it's pretty much saying how God has lost faith in man. And it's an interesting concept because a lot of religious people really don't believe that. Um, you know, uh, and it is very, very touchy on when you think and say about it, because it was a big twist that happened in the movie where pretty much where Michael says, I gave you, he told Gabriel, you gave him what he wanted versus what he needed. And it was also an allegory on the story of I'm drawing a blank of Abraham and Isaac when he was about to kill his son, and then the angel came down from heaven. Oh, excuse me, came down from heaven and had told him, "I just wanted to see pretty much if you were super committed to do what God was going to tell you to do in sacrificing your son." But what they didn't tell you in the movie, why the child was so important, and this could be on the Wikipedia page or one of them. The child is actually Christ. And even a twist on the whole thing, well, kind of a twist. I keep saying kind of a twist on top of a lot of stuff. But the movie takes place, I think, around Christmas Eve. And this is how, media really fools you, because a lot of people really do believe that Jesus was born on December 25th. I would say this, a lot of people who capitalize on it do. And if you've seen Supernatural, he was actually born in the fall. Possibly around November, early November, late October. Christmas, like many other major American holidays, it is a pagan holiday, or that's what, of course, what they capitalized on it to be. Same thing with St. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, of course. What was the other one? Possibly Thanksgiving. But of course, depending what doctrine you come from, you really know the history. A lot of the holidays come from Catholicism in the first place, and that's a lot of people don't know. And a lot of them don't know the whole meaning of it. Even with Christmas, is actually Christmas lasts, I think, 25 more days right after the initial so-called day. I could be wrong on 25 days, but it still goes on right after December 25th. So the good thing, I learned that from my mom because she's a catechist in the church, and she dove into the whole religious doctrine. Yeah, even have a timeline of why there are so many. But it was kind of funny when this movie came out. It didn't have any controversy like I thought it would because of one, how it's marketed, and of course all the actors that are in it, and but. It's one thing when you do a story like Constantine where, it's a man fighting, demons in the name of God. But the twist on this, it was an angel who was kicked out of heaven, but he didn't go to hell. He well, I tell you that back, he really wasn't kicked out. I'm assuming he had left, and he was one of God's, highest ranking angels, and you know, he was the one who did defeat Satan in the war over heaven and hell, as some of the texts do tell. Now in the King James version, they don't give that story, but in other books that are missing from the Bible, I think one was about angels and demons. I think it goes really into that territory. The effects in here were pretty good. Like you saw with the Ice Cream Man, it had fooled me a couple of times because I think that was partially CG and that was partially a real actual dude who was super super thin, and they just elongated his limbs. So in the movie, they have to protect the baby, and they're being attacked by possessed people in the form of who are angels, and they're low ranking angels. And like I said, they look demonic, but they have the eye pupils and baby like shark teeth. They don't look as demonic, you would say, but to an average person, it might scare the hell out of them. And that's pretty much all I can say about the film. I did read they do have some other properties that spin off of the series. Of course, they had a series called Dominion that was on the Sci-Fi Network. I didn't watch that. I didn't even know it existed until I had researched a little bit more for this movie. And they had comic books. It was I actually have one. It was called Legion Prophecies, and from the story, I think oh no, it could have been Prophecies of Prophets, but from my speculation, at the end of this movie, Michael tells Jeep, the main character, that he has to keep protecting the baby and learn how to read the instructions that are tattooed all over his body. They're like angelic symbols. Michael has them as well. He said, find the prophets and learn how to read them. From my speculation, I'm assuming one of the comics that I have is the story of one of those prophets, like who they were. But, the book did do a good job at pretty much, minusing stuff from the movie. The only thing that was really relatable there was one of the angels. And even that particular character or angel didn't appear in the movie. I think his name was Uriel. But a little bit on the whole religious thing. Of course, you have Michael and Gabriel, the only two main ones that are shown. But there are actually, I think there are 7 angels, 7 high-ranking archangels. Raphael was another one. I think Uriel was the other one. I can't remember the other names. And at one point, Lucifer, of course, was one of the highest ones. And if you look up the gap theory of why they have that whole triangle thing, now think about it, it's not 7. It was originally 5, including Lucifer. Lucifer was at the highest ranking. I think Michael was in second rank. And there's a little trivia where they have that satanic symbol of the upside down star and the ram head. I don't know where the ram head came from, but the star is up there because when God had kicked Lucifer out of heaven, ironically, like with Peter being crucified upside down, being different from Jesus, and even that has a demonic meaning. That's pretty much what it was. You're getting cast out. The whole thing flops. If you look up the gap theory, one of the professors on all the videos, he talks about what the gap theory is. I'm not going to get into that, but I think in the same conversation on one of the suggested videos, the star pendulum of what it means or where it came from is discussed. But what I did like about this movie, me as a writer, I was thinking about all the supernatural things that I have watched, and even the other movie Prophecy, even that fits into the whole thing. Of course, Supernatural, I haven't watched Supernatural, only like a few episodes. One of my friends, he was really into it. He's into that. Well, I don't think he's into it anymore because he said some weird shit was happening in his room when we were watching Paranormal Activity 3, like right after I left. But he was really into Supernatural. I was more favorable of just movies. Demon's Night, Tales from the Crypt had a good story on it like that I wanted to know more about. And of course, Constantine, like all that supernatural storytelling and things, it fit really, really well into that world. Hell, even Spawn, reading some of those books, how it's a big universe and what the mainstream audience knows and what the film has showed you. And it was very, very interesting. But even if you go and take time to read the other missing books of the Bible, it gives you a whole different interpretation of angels and demons. And I think that's where this idea came from. I want to say it's called the Book of Enoch. I haven't read it personally myself when I don't know where to find it. They may have, some kind of translation or something in the library, but on the whole religious factor, they argue all the time about what's true and what's interpretation, but at the same time, no one really knows. It's more about what you believe. But every day in our society, we are shown new things, or things that are being told to us versus what we experience. And also, it's just, why we created politics and religion is some form of control. And even when my mom was teaching one of her classes, that's what I wanted to tell one of the, she really isn't young, she was married, but she was asking those same questions. And, her mom was Methodist, she's Catholic. Her mom was tripping about her marrying a Catholic and this, that, and the other. And I really told her, your relationship with God is between you and him. Nobody can come in between that. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There are times and places where people are going to play certain cards that fit in their favor. That's what I say in politics and religion. But even I've heard ministers do sermons where they say some of y'all live in contradictory lives where you want to judge others, but you ain't living right, yourself. You can say what you want to all me, but the picture paints itself, So, again, I'm not going to get into the whole deep religious talk. If you want to talk about it in the comments, we can. Or I could just do a video about that because this movie was very interesting. Hopefully, and eventually, once I do all my movie reviews and I get a little bit more money and better equipment, of course, I really want to do audio commentaries on all my films. And I'll gladly do one on Legion. That'll be, that in the Matrix will be, included. That's not even my top 10, favorable ones to do. Of course, The Walking Dead and this, that, and the other. But what I really loved about this movie the most was Charles Dutton's performance and Paul Bettany's performance. Even Tyrese had joked saying, he was being schooled every day, being around these actors. You got one veteran in American cinema, and then you have one guy from the United Kingdom who already had some credibility, and now he's in the MCU as Vision. But this was like the first movie I really loved Paul Bettany in. Of course, he was in what was the movie with Heath Ledger, A Knight's Tale, and he was in Master and Command, I believe. I think that's the name of the movie, the one with Russell Crowe in the battleships. Only seen a couple scenes with him in there, but this was the first movie that, I would love to see more of a leading role from him or something that serious. And, even one of my characters, I kind of modeled after him in my comic book. So he just had that nice, I'm not so serious, but I'm not as chill and laid back either. And then, of course, Charles Dutton, I could be mispronouncing his name, but he was the guy, he was on Menace to Society. He had the show in the 90s called Rock. And he's another good, very, 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 very good actor. Of course, this ain't the first movie I've seen him in. I've seen him in A Time to Kill and Menace to Society. Those are like the two main films. And even my uncle knows him. I think I think he said he was in that, what was that play? Denzel just did a movie. He was in Fences. And, but beforehand, yeah, he was just right there with the thing in his hand. But I love Charles Dutton and technically in Menace Society a lot more because he had that credibility. And even what the Hugh brothers said behind the scenes, they had like 3 veteran, main top actors on that movie, and he was one of them. It was him, Samuel Jackson, and I'm drawing a blank on the third dude from the documentary that I saw. And all 3 elderly guys, they had different things about them. Of course, one of the characters that Sam played, he was a bad influence on his son. One of them, he really wasn't a father figure, but he was in the neighborhood and he would keep things straight. He didn't really judge people, especially in the scene during the picnic where he said he smoked reefer at one point too. And, you know, he wasn't, I think he was more technically of the glue of the whole thing versus being one side of this and one side of that. I really am drawing a blank on who that other third actor was, and I'm possibly going to remember who it is once this video is over. But seeing him on this movie, it was a shock to me because it didn't seem like a film he would be on. But I guess, you know, since he read the script and, you know, his character was pretty much a super religious one, that's probably why he was on it. And someone's telling me that he's been out and he had his own, you know, spiritual or just knowledge of knowing the real truth of why he wasn't as offended in portraying this character or being on this movie. And another actor, Dennis Quaid, he did a good job in this movie too. He's pretty much the atheist in the whole thing. And one of the striking scenes that had got me was right after I think the first wave of angels came and they took that lady's husband. He was saying, he was calling bullshit in the whole thing. He's like, I don't know why I'm even here. I don't even believe in God. And then, you know, Michael says, that's all right, Paul. Paul, you know, I think that's the guy's name. You know, he doesn't believe in you either. And he told him, you know, those things out there, they don't care what you believe or don't believe. They just want the child dead. So, you know, I guess it was a play on the whole thing that you can have this faith all you want to, but, you know, it does ask a good question. Is it destiny or is it just, you know, coincidental things that just happen, you know, or fate, you want to call it. So, because you could take Charles Dustin's character. He's the most religious one. You would think he will at least last a long time. He's like one of the second, you know, characters to get killed. And I was like, damn, you know, the good thing, he had some very, very good scenes, you know, before all that happened. But once the angels came back to test their weakness, that's when, you know, they were clipping them one by one. You know, right after that, of course, Tyrese had died because they used a kid as bait. And he went out there to, you know, go and save the kid, and it was a trap. So, you know, I'm just rambling on. I really did enjoy this movie. I give it 8 stars out of 10. It's just the fact that I want a lot more versus the movie and the TV series and the comics, and they canceled the TV series. So even a friend of mine, he didn't know that Dominion was based off this movie when I posted it on Facebook, you know, saying how it was technically a sequel. But I really wanted a full-fledged sequel on this and just never got it. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Again, see you guys on the next video, and I will talk to you later. Peace.